Complaints of a student holding up a Confederate flag and yelling white power, racial slurs, and other instances of hateful behavior at the East Hampton High School. They didn't happen under Mayor Nicole LaChapelle's watch, but they are a driving force behind a new effort that she pushed for, a Community Relations Commission, which was approved by City Council last night. What will the commission's role be? She recently spoke with me in the studio.
During the campaign, I talked a lot about community conversations, finding common ground. Once elected, I made a point to go back out into the community, drop by community events, go to the Council on Aging, just to get a sense of where that conversation should begin and the format. I also had some conversations up at the school committee and had an opportunity to talk to some high school students who participated in the School Spirit program that the Department of Justice did last year. After doing some research, I saw that they did a similar program called City Spirit, where it's a site-based conflict resolution training where, by invitation, members of the community in 4 different groups are brought together in a safe, confidential space facilitated by the Department of Justice around community conversations and finding common ground.
And I know that at the school level, this was under a previous administration, but there had been accusations of a hate crime that took place at the school, some racial slurs, there was a lot of, some turmoil at the school.
Absolutely.
And I know it's something the community addressed, and the Attorney General was actually looking into it for a short while and closed that investigation. But if there is a Community Relations Commission, how would something like that, an incident like a hate crime or something like that, how might the Community Relations Commission work with an issue like that?
The commission is going to be given a charge by myself once the 11 members of the community are appointed to the commission, and that's a public process like any other board. And the result of the City Spirit process on June 20th will be given to them, the results. There's a report that comes out, and it talks about, not necessarily, it's very proactive, a hate incident, or an incident of severe bias, but what are the underlying causes of that as identified on June 20th? And then the commission would be proactive in trying to resolve further conversation in the community about smaller issues that build up to hate and bias. If there was a very specific hate or bias incident in the city, that commission would be a part of a community conversation that would also include our public safety departments, certainly my office, and other.
It's a hate crime. That would be something the police department would get involved in.
Exactly, and just trying to resolve maybe the collateral lack of communication through the city, and the commission would have a part of that. But it reports out to City Council and to the mayor's office like any other planning board or ZBA, making some recommendations and taking a look at the smaller issues that led to a bigger issue, something divisive in the community.
Something being missed. But can you help us understand a few of the things that were raised as things that the community is seeing that really they want to call attention to?
So this is, I think, the beauty of the program. Both myself, Chief Alberti, Police Chief Alberti, and myself invited the Department of Justice in. This was something that was an invitation. Both the chief and I did not attend June 20th. We introduced the program and the Department of Justice team that came in, and then left the room and came back at the very end. There was no report out that we heard, and thanked the participants. So
was that the report to help people feel more open or to speak freely?
Absolutely. And the Department of Justice, the whole program is structured from their point of view in a safe space, confidential, really try to promote a more freer conversation among different segments of the community.
But I hear what you're saying, that you'll get the information, but certainly as mayor, you must hear from constituents who are saying that things are bothering them, things are on their mind.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's a big, it's interesting. The concerns I hear the most are around housing, How do you access services, not necessarily in municipal government, in surrounding community? The difficulty some parts of the community, elders, for instance, or young families, working families, how do they have or get transportation to medical services? Where in the community can we find affordable housing and opportunity to buying homes? How are there services or community places for everybody to gather and talk, or just simply hang out and not be concerned of not feeling welcomed, or it's not their space to occupy in their own city?
So assuming that it is passed, how will you attract residents or get their interest? It's 11 members. What are you looking for in committee members?
So we'll post it, and with what City Council, I submitted a resolution as well as an ordinance that's descriptive of the charge to the committee, and that will go up with a public posting that we have 11 positions. Again, the process is the same as any other committee. The resolution and ordinance that accompanied my request is very detailed and walks through, what this commission might take up. And I will look for applicants from our community that write a letter expressing their interest and why they're interested. There's also a one-page application that's on our website that asks residents very clearly if they have the time to commit and do they realize what it means to be on a city-based committee. I'm planning to bring in other department heads and elected officials so we can all talk as a group with members of the community interested. My primary concern is around time. Folks are really busy, and this will be a commitment of meeting and forging something that's very new for the city. And I want to make sure people who want to be involved have the time to commit through the entire set of conversations we're going to have.